Welcome everyone to another episode of Talk with a Doc. My name is Janvi, and throughout this series I will be talking to doctors of different specialities and those at different stages of their medical journeys to learn more about the variety of opportunities within medicine. In today's episode of Talk with a Doc, I am going to be talking to Dr Adebowale Adesina, an A&E Consultant working in Lewisham. Thank you so much, Dr. Adesina, for coming and talking with me today. I can imagine how busy you must be.
Hi, Janvi. Thanks for inviting me.
Oh, thank you so much. So initially, I just wanted to know what drew you to the busy and often chaotic environment of A&E?
It may sound contradictory. Actually, in the chaos you see in A&E, there's also a bit of organization. Everyone seems to know what they're doing, even in the midst of the chaos. And that was one of the things that attracted me initially. So even though everything is happening at the same time, but the members of the team are very organized. They know what they're doing and they're delivering their care in the most professional way. So I like that. I like the fact that things happen all the time. Patients come in distress and they go out relieved, happy. Relatives are happy, so I like that bit of it. So it looks chaotic, but it's also very organized.
All right. I mean, I've been before, and obviously it looks like everyone's always in action, and they always have such a clear plan, even with all sorts of random emergencies coming in.
Exactly.
So how is it to be in that environment, and how are you able to sort of cope under that stress?
So we worked at a lot of skills like good communication skills, teamwork skills. Everyone at all times achieving goal, which is to provide the best care for our patients. So we do lots of behind the scenes. We do a lot of trainings together, what we call simulation. So we practice things, different scenarios. So that's why it looks very organized when you see us working together. So yeah, it's very interesting. It's never a dull moment.
Wow.
Working any.
That sounds really interesting, definitely. So with the chaotic environment in mind, and obviously it's a really busy lifestyle working in A&E, how are you able to strike a good work-life balance?
Right. Okay. So it's can be challenging initially when you're new to the environment, to any environment. But as you go along in your career, you work your way around it and you can get a very good quality life balance. One of the first challenges you face is the shift pattern. So most people do 9 to 5 jobs. So if you come into A&E, because we provide services 24/7, so in order to have care 24 hours, 7 days a week, we need to do shift patterns. Now, that's good for our patients because they know that we're there all the time. But for the people working there, for us as staff, it means that we may have to do on social hours. It means that we may have to start shift when other people are finishing their work. So that can be a bit challenging initially. It may affect your social life because most of your friends are working 9 to 5 and want to go out in the evening, so you may not be available to go out with them. Weekends you might be working, but after a while you can figure it out. It can actually be an advantage. You may find out that you are free on a Monday morning where you can sort out your banking issues, you can sort out your internet supplier. You've been trying to get in contact with them for several days. You might be able to do school runs with your family and do some other things. Also, after a while, you master it and you can network with other people that are also doing shifts. So other frontline workers, people working in fire services, social workers, nurses, so you'll be able to create another social life. Overall, as you then move along the ladder, as you get more experience and you're rising up in your career, you do less on social hours. So yeah, so there are thousands of people working in the country, and they are doing well. Yeah, so it initially can be a bit challenging, but it's something you can cope with and actually can work to your advantage overall.
That sounds great. I mean, I was always thinking that with the shift system in working as a doctor in the NHS, it must be, I mean, you must never get used to the idea that you're doing sort of sociable hours or normal work hours one day, and then you're having to go back into night shifts in a week's time, for example. But according to you, I think, it's just about building a pattern and being able to get used to your sleep schedule changing every now and then.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Also, technology has helped a bit now. We have what we called self-rostering now, where you can actually tell yourself, even though you're doing shifts,
Mhm.
you can decide to pick certain shifts to balance your, other activities and maintain good work balance. You can choose not to work on certain days of the year. You can choose certain bank holidays where you want to spend with families and relatives. So it's a lot easier than what people think. So with self-rostering, you can agree with your colleagues, work on certain days, work certain shifts, and
Mhm.
have more times or days off with family.
Ah, right. Okay. So you do have the sort of option to sort of try and make it as compatible with your family life as well.
Yes.
Great. So, looking at the shifts, what would a typical shift in A&E look like? I mean, is there even such thing as a typical shift? Because of course, it's so varied and it can be completely random based on the emergencies that roll in, on any given
Yeah.
day.
Yeah, it can be completely random, but there's also some pattern to it. So, for example, during winter, we
Mhm.
have COVID-related injuries, COVID-related illnesses more than what you have in summer. In summer, you have probably more sports injuries
Oh.
coming through.
Mhm.
Also, times of the day, the kind of things that come in the morning are different for what comes later in the evenings.
Mhm.
So they say we can predict some things,
Oh.
even in the randomness. There's some predictability. Having said that, it's very interesting because you see all age groups from children to elderly, young working class people. You see all kind of cases, mental health, emergencies, trauma, obstetrics, women health, all kind of emergencies in all specialties come through to us. So yeah, so even all there's randomness in it, but there's also some predictability in the randomness.
All right. Okay. So, with given the sort of variety that you face in A&E, what do you think are some important skills for people who are aspiring that perhaps they would like to enter emergency medicine or specialize in emergency medicine later on?
Yeah, so the key skills are one, you need good communication skills
Mhm.
because you've got your patients that are very anxious, they don't know what's going on with them. They need to reassure them and inform them what's going on. You got the
Mhm.
patient's relatives that are also confused and anxious. You got good communication skills to reassure them and carry them along as things go on.
Mhm.
Also, it's a huge team. So your colleagues, nurses, physiotherapists, medical colleagues, other, specialists that you're working with, radiographers, you need to have good communication skills for things to happen in a timely fashion. You also communicate with people outside the hospital environment. So specialists in other hospitals,
Right.
ambulance crew, services. So you need very communication skills. Another good skills is team working skills. You need to be able to work with everyone, irrespective of their orientation about life, their beliefs, their skin color, their racial background, doesn't
Mhm.
matter. You need to be able to work with the team to deliver good care for your patients. Obviously, you need the technical skills as well, medical skills, to give people good pain relief, for example, people that come in gasping to be able to treat them, people with heart attack, people with dislocations, fractures. So you need the clinical skills as well, the technical skills to look after them. So these three basic skills are non-negotiables. Then other ones come in as well, depending on the specific case that we are dealing with. Yeah.
It sounds like such a amazing job because of course as a medical specialty it's so varied because you're dealing with anything and everything that walks through the door, and to be able to deal with all of that requires a big range
Exactly.
of skills. um so having said that, what would be your
Yeah.
favorite aspect of the job? Because of course there's so much to choose from, I'm sure.
To be honest, it's very, very interesting throughout the day. The variation actually makes it very interesting.
Hmm.
So the fact that, it's a bit unpredictable and it's not boring, and that, you're seeing the same thing every day. So
Sure.
it varies. You can move on from injuries to someone having a cardiac arrest, so another one having a heart attack, someone gasping for breath, someone wants to deliver a baby and just showed up to your department. You have to deliver them and
Hmm.
then look after the little kids before the specialists come in. So, it's the variation, and also the fact that you get your results almost immediately. So someone comes in very anxious, very scared for their life, and you do some certain things from the skills that you have, and bam, they're just relieved. They are now happy. Their relatives are now relieved. They're happy. You can see the happiness in their face. That is so rewarding, when you do that. And you do this every day. You do this rewarding, immediate reward for your activities or your, skills that you give to your patients.
That sounds really wonderful. I mean, the job satisfaction there is definitely, I mean, for medicine as a whole, that's one of the biggest advantages of entering this profession is you do get great job satisfaction. But at the same time, being an A&E consultant and being on the front line and seeing all these emergencies, of course, with your, equal levels of achievements and successes also comes not necessarily failures, but sort of situations where you can't save the patient's life. And so how has that impacted you? What types of challenges have you been, exposed to on the A&E front lines, and how have you dealt with them?
Yes, we do get that, where even with our best, we can't save life, or it's not dignifying to continue to sustain life, because
Mm-hmm.
we're just probably going to inflict injuries to the patient and distress them, and they'll still die. So there will be certain situations like that. This is where your communication skills come in, your team working skills come in to, carry your team along, including the patients themselves and their relatives. Also, we do what we call debriefing. So
Right.
after such, events where, emotions are affected, we then call ourselves afterwards and allow people to talk, to heal,
Okay.
and for us to re-examine ourselves and reflect on what we have done, whether there are things that we need to improve on, to reassure ourselves that we have actually given the best to the patient, and it's just what's going to happen, and we can't prolong life beyond what life itself has got. They've
Mhm.
used all their reserves. So we need to reassure ourselves that we haven't made any mistakes. We've given the best we have given. We are likely to give to them. It's just that they were going to die, and there's nothing we can do. Yeah.
Mhm.
So we do, the briefing helps a lot for us to discuss the cases and then reflect on our activities.
I think that's really great that within the role of being an A&E doctor, you have that time where you can reflect, and it's part of your job almost to be able to go through the reflective cycle and really take into consideration that you have given the best for your patient, and there's so much you can also learn from each individual case. But despite all of this, has the stress ever
Yes.
become too much? Have you ever felt that one particular case might have impacted you quite a bit more than you'd have ever expected? And I mean, have you ever felt perhaps like leaving A&E because of that level of stress?
No, not really. I enjoy it. And we got very supportive colleagues that you work with. We do excuse ourselves if you feel too pressurized by the work or too emotional. You
Mhm.
can be excused. The good thing about the job is that there's so many people working on a particular shift, so the work can continue. You can be excused. We have regular breaks that allows us to, relax because of the workload. You go away from the shop floor, the clinical environment, go to the wellness room. We have wellness rooms. We
Ah,
have staff rooms where you can go and just have chats with your colleagues. You can eat, drink, refreshing yourself and replenish the energy. So all those things help us to, continue to deliver the services. So we have things in place that will help us to cope with the stress. And we discuss cases amongst ourselves. We review them at departmental level. We review them during teaching, so we can do the learning process, and your colleagues can give you, feedback shows on the rest. So I said it's never crossed my mind to leave this specialty. No,
That
it's just
sounds
too
really great.
interesting to leave.
Interesting to you. That's really wonderful. I mean, talking to you now, I've come to realize just how A&E is, while it's obviously so different to every other branch of medicine, and the idea of medicine being different to any other job, it also shows that quite a lot of it is still, everyone is still human. You still have that chance to bond together as a team of, colleagues working together, discussing cases. You have your time where you can talk about things that could affect you. So in some ways, it's like any other work. I mean, of course, it can't be that way, but you have that opportunity, which is really lovely to hear. Also thinking about how COVID's impacted the whole A&E system. I know that Lewisham Hospital particularly was one of the, I think one of the first in London to receive a COVID case. So what was that like to put up with something so new and unprecedented?
Yes, that was a challenging period, as has been well documented across the world. Before we had our first case, we were getting prepared. People, equipment, we started protocols to be able to look after patients when they come in. But when it came, some of the plans that we had did not work. Partly because it was a complete new disease. The treatment guidelines we're going to use for similar conditions, some worked and some didn't work well. And that's not secret now. It's well known across the world now that some of the treatments that we deployed at the beginning didn't work well, some worked well. So it was learning along as we're going. There were so many uncertainties. So there was anxieties, for ourselves, for our patients, because we didn't know what we're dealing with completely as well. So it was very challenging periods to start with. But there was a lot of support from the trust, the hospital trust, from our colleagues, from the government, supported us a lot during that period. And the members of the public were superb. The encouragement they gave us was a challenging period, but it was also a period of learning for us. We're in a better position now compared to 1 year ago.
And so now I'm sure you're sort of better prepared, because I mean things such as PPE and just general protocol for if a case comes in, it's better well known. So of course I'm sure you can deal with that better as a department. And as doctors in general, because of course this was new to everyone when it first hit. We had the warning, but nobody knew it would come to the scale that it did back a year ago now. And also, besides A&E, I've heard that you were also given the opportunity to practice medicine in Australia. So I was just interested to hear a bit more about that and how that experience in practicing medicine in a different country can compare to practicing medicine within the NHS.
Yes, I did a few months in Australia. I worked in pre-hospital environment, so Rival and things like that. So it was majorly in New South Wales, in Australia. I was based in Sydney, but my work also took me to other islands around Australia, where Australia had agreements with them to provide advanced medical cover for them. So it was very interesting to, islands I would never have thought of, going there normally. So places like Fiji, Vanuatu, New Caledonia, and some other small islands around Australia. So it was very interesting. I was able to see other parts of the world, different cultures, different health system. Overall, the health system in Australia is comparable to the UK, very high quality, good standards, and the procedures, the protocols, the patterns, the guidelines are similar as well. So it's very easy for a UK trained doctor to work in Australia and vice versa. So we have similar, not exactly the NHS, but it's actually similar. The differences are the distances. Australia is obviously a very huge country. So the distance into health facilities may be very, long. And so you need a lot of skills that we use in the hospital in the UK. You need to be able to use it outside the hospital in Australia. Hence, their pre-hospital care is very high level, because you might have, for example, now in London, you'll probably be able to take someone on the helicopter and get to anywhere within the M25 within 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Whereas in Australia, in South Wales, you might be on the helicopter for like 2 hours before you get to the next fast. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's so you need to be able to deploy advanced medical skills when needed in that period, whether you are in the air or on land, which can take several hours, can take 3-4 hours to get to the next big facilities in some cases, not in all cases. So that's just the main difference between the Australia health network and the UK. Obviously, in Australia, it's not national, so each region has its own healthcare setup, but they are all similar, unlike the NHS, where it's a national service throughout the UK.
Also, in Australia, is it public funded, or is there any?
Yeah, it's majorly public funded as well.
Okay.
But it's not exactly like the NHS. Some things are not free like you have in the NHS, but it's majorly public funded as well.
All right. Okay. So what persuaded you to sort of perhaps come back and practice in the NHS in England?
I think even when I was going out, I knew I was going to just spend a few months there. I didn't plan to stay there for too long. I think partly for family reasons, friends and families are around Europe and in Africa. So it would be a long distance to get in touch with families. So, but having said that, I enjoyed my stay out there. It's a great country, good weather, and practicing medicine there is superb. It's like working in the NHS as well.
Great, that sounds very interesting. I think at some point medical students also have the opportunity to go and take an elective, and so I think Australia definitely seems like one of my top options now. Here after hearing your stories. Thank you so much, Dr. Addy. That was really interesting, and I definitely learned a lot about sort of the myths behind being an A&E doctor, and it does sound like a very interesting speciality to go into. So one that I would definitely be considering in the future, because there's just so much variety, and as you sort of re-emphasize, one day is going to be repeated again. There's always going to be something new, and I'm really interested and excited to sort of pursue this as an option perhaps in the future. So thank you so much for your time. I really enjoyed that.
No problem. Thank you for having me. All the best for the future. I'm sure I can that you will enjoy studying medicine, and do consider emergency medicine because you will love it. All the best.
Great. Thank you very much.